Good evening, Fiends. Are you ready? Let's get spooky. Hello, Fiends, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Get Spooky. I'm Vamp.
And I'm AJ.
And today we're talking about brains.
Yes. Wait, what were we talking about?
Right? So you know what's really scary is the fact that I or you cannot remember shit.
Anything. The amount of times that I'm on my phone and I see something in one tab and I'm like, ooh, I want to quickly look this up. And I literally go to switch tabs and I'm like, what was I going to do?
Speaking of which, I text you and I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about? I'll think of some topics and then I'll text you. And then that night before I go to bed, my goal was, I'm laying here. Let's think of some topics. Let's just get the brain flowing. And
marinating.
Well, yeah, let's marinate it a little bit. So by the time we wake up, we're like solid. I got 2 topics to choose from. So right before I'm like kind of dozing off and I was like, oh, I got an idea. Let's talk about like memory and brain things and stuff and how I can't remember shit.
Anything.
It's a common topic that comes up. And then so I'm like, okay, should I write it down? Do I need to make a note? No, I'm fine. It's only one thing I can remember.
Yeah.
Go to bed, sleep like shit, wake up in the morning, and I'm like, really? And I had to sit.
I had the greatest idea.
Yeah. Clearly it wasn't that great because I couldn't even remember it. And then I had to sit for a little bit. And then I finally remembered and I was like, it was a good idea. Let's talk about
This is it.
And then the fact that I tell myself, oh, you don't need to write it down. You can remember.
No, it's fine.
Actually, not. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't remember anything.
Matt tells me all the time, you should, I'll go, like, I'll think of something. And he's like, you should write that down. And I'm like, I'll remember.
All the time,
And then
Cameron.
literally later, I'm like, I was going to write something down.
Yeah, I should have written it down. Why can't I remember? Why am I so dumb? But we're going to unpack this topic because I feel like this is a common thing for a lot of different reasons in this moment in our lives, but also there's like plenty of other medical reasons as to why this happens to people, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, we start off with our list of movies and shows related to the topic. Would you like to begin?
Sure. Memento from 2000, directed by Christopher Nolan. I remember I actually just watched this for the first time kind of recently. And I didn't really know anything about it. So like I went into it and I'm like, okay. And the editing is super cool because it's like part of it is in black and white and part of it's in color. And like some of it is going forward and then some of it is flashbacks and like rewind. And
you have to really be paying attention though because it jumps around a lot.
Yeah, and it's basically a man with short-term memory loss attempts to track down his wife's murderer, and he remembers things, like he takes writing things down to the extreme. He like gets stuff tattooed on him, and I just think that's so funny because I'm like, just me being someone who is heavily tattooed, like he gets something tattooed and he's like, aftercare? Who needs it? Like he's going off with his life as if he doesn't need to even take care of these tattoos after he gets them.
No tattoo balm, no no SPF.
And I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, he remembers things versus like with tattoos and then also Polaroids. Like he'll take pictures of people and then like he'll write stuff on it and yeah. So it's really cool. It's trippy.
I feel like in that situation, I'm like, there's nothing I need to remember that's that important that I need to tattoo it on me. But I guess like uncovering a murder of your loved one, I get it. But it's a little intense. You could have just written it down in a notebook or like typed down some notes. Because then he just
ends up with like all this really bad font, and it's like 2000, so they didn't really care much about like font choices. Like how much of it is in papyrus? Like come on.
It was for dramatic effect more than like practical effect.
Yeah.
On my list, I have Total Recall because we love Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so Total Recall follows Douglas Quaid, a.k.a. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a construction worker who has recurring dreams about traveling to Mars. But it turns out that the recall company has implanted false memories because they want him dead. So it's him. You've seen Total Recall before, haven't you? What? It's a classic.
As you said the like description, I'm like, I don't think I've seen this.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah, no.
Well,
sorry.
She has homework.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a first. Everything that I've said, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. Oh yeah, I've seen that. I feel like this is the first time I've ever stumped you.
For me.
Total Recall. And it was in 1990, so it's a little bit of an older.
That movie's as old as me. Okay.
That's probably why you haven't seen it.
But your description of that also brought up one that's not on my list, but Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Like, because the, they would have memories, like false memory, or like, they're supposed to be false memories, but like we find out in 2049 that the person who's making these memories is making them based off her memories, which then kind of blurs that line of like what's real, what's not. But yeah, I feel like that kind of fits this.
This one's not on my list, but I just thought of it because I feel oftentimes that this has happened to me, Men in Black with the little flashy thing. And I'm like, did someone just flashy thing me in the time I changed tabs on the internet? Now I don't remember.
Yeah.
It happens way too often. So I feel like they made a movie about it to make a joke. Like, no one's going to think the flashy thing's real. But every time you see a camera flash, they're really just erasing your memory.
Just erasing it.
What else you got?
My VHS here, Mulholland Drive. Directed by my main man, David Lynch.
My main man.
It's wild. A dark-haired woman is left amnesiac.
Amnesiac?
After a car crash, she and a perky Hollywood hopeful search for clues and answers across Los Angeles. So it's a very good movie on its own, but it's also pretty cool because, like, especially living in LA, there's a lot of locations, and you're like, oh my God, that place. So yeah, and also David Lynch.
I have Blackbird on my list, and this is a show on Apple TV, came out in 2022. Oh. It's basically the story of, oh my God, Larry Hall, and he was a rapist and serial killer. And so it's based on a true story. It's done very, very well. It's one of those where you start the show and you're like, just one more episode. And by the time you know
you're binging the whole thing.
It's 4 a.m. and you're like, oh my God, what happens next? I'll talk more about Larry Hall a little bit later because this is a real person. But essentially, he says often, he doesn't necessarily have memory loss. Like, he's not diagnosed with memory loss or amnesia or anything like that. But one of the things that he was found to say often was, oh, I just can't recall. I can't remember. Like, I felt like I was in a dream and then I woke up and then I wasn't sure if this happened or didn't happen. And he was a serial confessor. So, there's a lot of people that would confess to murders just because they wanted the fame or notoriety.
Henry Lee Lucas.
Never did it. Yep. In this case, it's him being a serial confessor who actually did commit the crimes.
Oh,
but it was super interesting in how the law took it, how the cops took it. They would just be like, oh, that's just Larry. He's just a confessor. He just wants attention, but he didn't actually really do it. And I'm like, how did they... I was so stumped. I'm like, the guy basically committed the crimes, said he committed the crimes, and I was like, just kidding, I'm lying. And they're like, okay, just kidding, you're lying. And like got away with it for a really long time. So I'll talk about more of that story later. I also have 50 First Dates on my list, which has nothing to do with anything spooky. But it is spooky to have to relive the same day over and over every 24 hours. So
yeah, that's too much.
What else? You have any other ones?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind that has Elijah Wood in it. That's all that matters.
That's it.
That's all that you need
to
know.
Watch it. Has Elijah Wood in it.
Elijah Wood
also, Jim Carrey's in it.
Yeah. But Elijah Wood's in it.
Elijah Wood. Okay. Those are our recommended films and shows. So I guess let's talk a little bit about memory loss and issues. And there's types of memory issues. There's dementia. There's Alzheimer's disease. There's amnesia. There's a couple different varieties of amnesia. And I guess I'll specify them because they come up later in other things that I'm talking about. So retrograde amnesia describes amnesia where you can't recall memories that were formed before the event that caused the amnesia. Anterograde amnesia describes amnesia where you can't form new memories after the event. And then there's post-traumatic amnesia that occurs immediately after a significant head injury. There's short-term memory loss. There's long-term memory loss. There's mild cognitive impairment. So basically, the mild cognitive impairment is older people have problems with memory that are noticeable, but they aren't so serious. Like you could still function.
Yeah.
It's not having like Alzheimer's or dementia where
you just forget
you
where
forget
you are, and you're like,
you can't. Yeah. And there's multiple causes. I feel like a lot of the times when we associate someone that has memory loss, you usually think, oh, they hit their head.
Yeah.
There was some sort of traumatic
trauma to the head of some sort.
Exactly. Yeah. And then from that point forward, either they couldn't remember things that happened before, they can't remember anything after. But there's so many other things besides head injury. There's medications can cause memory loss, thyroid issues, excessive drinking of alcohol, lack of sleep, nutritional deficiencies, cancer treatment, stroke. The nutritional deficiencies one to me really stood out because I have a B12 deficiency, and it's basically saying not enough B1 or B12 can lead to memory loss. And I was like, oh, shit.
Ding, ding.
For a long time, I was having to get B12 shots because I'm so tired all the time, and it helps. And now I'm trying to think back when I was getting those. Could I remember stuff better?
Yeah, did you remember things more?
And you can't really overdose on B12. So B12 will give you like an energy boost. It's good for you. You can't, like I said, you can't have too much. And I guess if it has the added effect of making you remember things, maybe I'm going back to get B12 shots because we're having some issues. I think that, so Cameron had asked me this question. I think this was earlier in the day, and I think this is what struck the whole memory topic issue was he said, what was the first movie you saw in a theater? And like, I stared at him like this, like thinking about it for so long. And I just looked at him and I was like, I don't know. Like, I can't remember. And
like, I don't know mine.
I don't know either though. I told you.
Yeah, but like
but this is one thing that always freaks me out because I feel like I meet people and they're like, oh, I remember when I was this old and I remember this thing and I remember when I first saw this movie and I remember like all this stuff. I even know there's people who are like, I have memory of being in the womb, and I'm like,
no, you're lying.
I think you're lying.
Yeah.
But also like, except for like specific little things.
Like tidbits.
Little tidbits. I don't remember much past just now.
Same.
I like when you ask the movie question, I remember I have like a specific memory of going and seeing Good Burger with my mom in the theaters. I don't know if that's my first movie.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
So
That's what I'm saying. There's too many. I remember like E.T., like some of the Star Wars series, Superman. Like there's so many out.
but you
Gremlins. I don't know.
Cameron and his family were like, his dad loved movies. So that was a thing. They go to the movies. They had a crazy like sound system where they would watch movies at home. Like they were movie people. My family like wasn't like that. My brothers and I watched movies. We watched VHS like on the little TV in the family room, but we weren't like, let's get everyone together and go to the movies. We went with our friends every once in a while, but
I went with my friends. Like I remember in summer, you know, you have a lot of free time on your hands and you look through the newspaper and you'd see the show times and be like, oh, let's go see this movie.
But you were older when that happened.
I was older. That was probably like middle school times.
Isn't that weird? Like you just,
Yeah.
There's things that like, you're right. I have tidbits of things. Most of my memories, and this is going to sound bad because I had a lot of great memories when I was younger and growing up. Most of my vivid memories, I call them trauma memories, and there weren't like severe trauma, but in my mind as a child, my first memory of Disneyland, I was telling Cameron, he's like, don't tell this story. It's embarrassing. And I'm like, but that means it's good. My very first memory of Disneyland was going with my family. I think my cousins were there. I have like vague memories of the atmosphere around me, but we were standing like in front of the castle, and you know, there's like that area of grass that has the wrought iron bars around it. I got my head stuck in the bars.
That sounds about right.
And they had to.
This adds up.
He was like, don't tell anyone you sound dumb. And like, well, I was a child and I was dumb, and I put my head in the bars. I don't know why. Maybe there was a duck in there. I don't know. And someone had
to see if it could fit.
Someone had to come. They had to like get security and people to like get me out. And it was like a big ordeal. But I vividly remember. I remember it was hot. I remember being stuck and crying and like being sweaty because I couldn't get out. Yeah, stuff like that. I remember going to my first petting zoo and riding a pony. And I was so excited. I always wanted a pony. And I feel like I might have told this story before, but my pony, it was like, they're all connected, right?
Yeah.
So if one pony stops, they all like eventually slow down and stop. So my pony stops and then starts peeing. And I was so upset, and I started crying, and then my parents had to come get me off the horse because I was like making a scene. And it was Santa's Village. Right? It was Santa's Village. They had it was like up in the mountains, Santa's Village. And you'd go meet Santa, and there was reindeer, and there was like a petting zoo.
I never went to Santa's Village.
But I remember that. I don't remember meeting Santa. I don't remember anything else about the animals. I remember me sitting on the pony, it stopping, it peed, I cried. But like vivid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my memories, I don't remember most of my first movies. I remember my first horror movie because I was terrified. Yeah. And that's it. And I have like other vague memories, but not vivid where I could tell you beginning, middle, end of the story.
Yeah. Now that I'm like thinking about it, a lot of the ones that I remember are traumatic, like all the times I almost died.
Mm-hmm. Those are good ones to remember, though, so you don't do those things again.
Where we went to a restaurant and they had steps up to the restaurant that then had big brick, like, pillar things that go up into the side. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, me being a ding-dong kid, I'm jumping in between the two things. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, instead of going straight, I went this way towards the door, and I slammed my head on the floor, the tile floor, super hard. My mom, like, I was talking to her about it, she's like, I remember being inside the restaurant and hearing the hollow clunk sound.
The brain
and now
snack.
I'm wondering, is that why I don't remember anything?
That was your head injury. Yeah. Were you concussed?
I don't know. I just went and ate food, and then that was like back in the day where like your parents were like, "You're fine, walk it
like,
off."
It's not bleeding. It's fine.
Not bleeding.
It's fine.
You can open your eyes. You didn't break anything.
Can you move it? Is it broken? It's not broken if you can move it. Yeah. And they're like, in fact, it could very much be broken, and you could still.
That was it. If you can move it and if you can walk, you're fine. We are like, they just called our name. We're not going to go to the ER. It's time
fine.
To eat.
We waited 40 minutes. We're not doing this again.
We're not.
You better suck it up.
You better be fine.
I was also concussed a couple times. Let's take it back to I was a cheerleader for a little bit. Dropped on my head once and then hit my head on someone else's head. So I was concussed twice. And then my mom was like, maybe this isn't the sport for you. And I was like, but Mom, they throw me up in the air. She's like, you have head trauma.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's the problem. So I feel like I played soccer for quite a few years. I don't think I ever fractured an ankle, but I don't think I ever hit my head. But now looking back, there's plenty of reasons why maybe I can't remember stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, you're fine.
I fell off the trampoline, but I fell on my back. And I was like, I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was dying, and I was like, like, where you could.
Yep. They knocked the wind out of you.
Oh my God.
But your head was fine? You know what I feel like a common practice should be? Helmets. Like just in everyday. I feel like if people wore helmets in everyday life, although you would look very silly, I mean, protection.
Yeah. I think it was Carl Pilkington that said like everyone should have like a thumbnail on their head to protect them because like your nails on your fingers protect the soft spot.
Thumbnail.
So everyone should have like a nail on their head to protect them
from a helmet.
Yeah.
I mean,
but this is like he was thinking more like evolutionary, we should've, like.
But then, listen.
Can you imagine going around with like a big toenail on your forehead?
Survival of the fittest, though, at a certain point, because if everyone is 100% protected, like, this is going to sound terrible, but some people got to go. So we can't keep everyone safe from everything, or else, like, the planet would overflow very quickly. So, listen, not everyone should be allowed to wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So trauma memories, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that's a common thing to have memories that are based around things that scared you or were bad. And it's really terrible that things that were super duper joyful don't outweigh the trauma memories, but maybe they do for some people. I guess let us know. Let us know what your...
Yeah, what's your most joyous... I'm trying to think of...
We're like, we don't have joy in our life. I don't know what joy is. There's plenty of really rad things that we've done.
Yeah, I remember
coming
home, going to Blockbuster, getting Nightmare on Elm Street, and bringing it home for the first time and just staying up and watching all of them. That's a joyous
Childhood.
memory.
I remember being a kid and like summer came around and your parents were just like, go away, but come back when it's dark. And we would get on our bikes and we would just go away. Like we would, I don't know what we did all day. We would like ride to our friend's house. We'd go to the park. I do remember this. It was summertime. I went to my friend's house on my bike. She lived like 3 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, we're bored. What are we going to do? And then we made time capsules. Do you remember doing that as a kid? Like you just found a box and you put random shit in it. And you're like, I'm going to go bury it in a random place.
And then you'd forget.
No, we didn't forget. The whole point of a time capsule is like you're supposed to leave it there for a long time.
Yeah.
Like a long, year, like decades, years. You're not supposed to go dig it up. And we waited like a summer and we're like, I wonder if it's still there. And of course it was, because it had only been a year. And then we reburied it. And I don't know. I don't even know if that park's still there, but that would be interesting.
Huh.
I remember I do have a little bit of brain cells left. I remember the mountain in the park, that little hill we buried it in.
I remember some summer stuff like middle school, early high school, going on skateboards and stuff to your friend's house. And then I remember for some reason there was a Carl's Jr. And even though it was during the day and it was open, we always tried to go through the drive-through line and order crisp cut fries because those were really good.
Bomb. Yeah. Did they let you on the skateboards?
Sometimes. It depends on who you got.
Yeah, if it was like
if
a
they're
cool
like,
kid.
Who cares? I don't care. Like, I don't get paid enough to deny these kids what they want.
What's my next thing? I have it even written down and I'm still like, what was I going to say next? So to solve my brain issues, remember do you remember this time after the Scream event when we went to Mel's and we had a waitress and she was like, came up, no paper, no pencil.
Which normally means bad news because there's other restaurants that I go to and there's like Little Tony's on Lancashire. There's one guy there and he always comes up and he always takes our order. He never writes it down and there's always at least one or two things wrong, but I never want to.
You don't want confrontation. You're like, it's
so
fine.
I'm always like, it's fine. I'll eat it. It's not a big deal. So when she came up and she didn't have anything and there was 4 of us.
All of us, immediate doubt.
I was like,
we didn't say anything, but we had doubt.
I just know in my head something's going to be
And we're not
right.
We're not just give me this. We're like, I would like this, but can you put this on the side? Can you I feel like everyone had a thing that they had a specialty.
Like I think I got a grilled cheese, so you want like a specific type of cheese and a specific type of bread,
right,
and stuff like that.
And hold this or put this on the side. So I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
Like there's 4 of us. We all had a specialty thing we needed, one. And she, took our orders. Comes back, didn't mess anything up. And at one point, someone said, I think it was Cameron. He said, How did you do that?
Like, are you
an alien? Or do you have a good memory?
What's up? We need to know.
For the whole dinner, she ran with I'm an alien. And we're like, okay, fully acceptable answer. If you're an alien, great, totally get it. And then towards the end, she comes up and she has something in her hand and she's like, so this is what I take.
Yeah, this is actually the secret.
And it is by the brand Whole Sun Wellness. It's called Deep Brain Health, and switch hands right here. And it says for mental clarity and brain support, it's a superfood. It is essentially a blend of mushrooms. What does it have in it? It is organic lion's mane mushroom. There's a couple different ones. Trumella mushroom, organic black fungus mushroom, shiitake mushroom, oyster mushroom. There's like a mushroom blend. So it's a powder. You essentially can mix it into your smoothies and mix it into water. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. All of us as a group talked about it.
We all took pictures of it.
We took pictures. I remember like months went by and Matt was like, did you get it? And I was like, no, I haven't gotten it. I don't know if it really works. It's kind of expensive. And like, I'm not sure. But then finally I was having like a mental breakdown. I couldn't remember stuff again. And I'm like, pulled the trigger, bought it. I bought this one. And then there's another one I think I got down here. It's also mushrooms. And not the kind of psychedelic mushrooms. Like you're not going to go on a trip. This is like for your health. This one is deep digestive health.
Ooh.
But here's the thing. I bought these maybe a month ago.
Uh-huh.
Maybe about a month ago. Maybe
Were they
a little
already
less.
expired?
No. Got them. opened them, was really excited. I'm like, Cameron, the mushrooms came. We got to try them. And then what do? I put them in the cabinet in the kitchen with the vitamins. And then I forgot they were there. And it's been a month. So as you can tell, they're still sealed because I haven't used them. So the jury is still out. I don't know if it works because I haven't tried them. But now that we've talked about them and they're in my hands,
they're going to go back into the medicine cabinet. And then in 2 months, she's going to go,
oh shit, where did I put those mushrooms?
Remember those mushroom things?
So tomorrow, I'm going to start in the morning. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna. I promise.
Yep.
Contains all active compounds. Also, side note, these are not FDA approved, so there's no there's no medical documentation as to if they work or not. People say they work, but it's not actually medically tested, so you can't technically prove it quite yet. But I'll let you know if I can remember.
I do that with food too. There's so many times where I'll buy snacks or special drinks, and Matt is always like, I'm going to put it directly in front of the fridge. So when you open up the fridge, it's the first thing you see. Because if you don't do that, the amount of expired food I throw out is so awful. And it's just because I forget I have things and then I don't eat it.
So going down this rabbit hole of figuring, see, you just threw my mushrooms on the floor. I'm going to forget. They're going to be under the couch for a month. Going down this rabbit hole, I was trying to think, is this a thing everyone goes through? Because I feel like a lot of people have issues with memory. And so I'm like, what could be causing this to be happening and it being so common in like our friend group? And when we talk about it, everyone's like, yeah, I can't remember shit either. What's going on?
I don't remember anything.
And I did a little bit of research. Let me find it in my, did I pass it? Okay. So there's two different things.
By.
People talk about COVID brain, right?
Yeah.
And brain fog. And at first I'm like, that's bullshit. It's just overstimulation, right? And then actually looking it up, hold for notes. This is what happens when you have too many notes. Son of a biscuit. It's on here somewhere. Okay, never mind. I remember. I read the article. So this is fresh in my brain. So there's actually studies that have been done, I think it was in 2022, so very recently, talking about people that had COVID and long-term effects of COVID, and basically saying that COVID, they tested people pre-COVID, and COVID's been going on for a long time. So they were thinking that it affected the brain, and after testing people that had COVID, the size of the brain actually decreased for people that had certain strains of COVID. And it also changed the gray matter in the brain is like how we function. So certain types of illnesses 100% affect your memory. And I feel like in this time with COVID being so like prevalent and happening for so many people over so many years, COVID brain fog is actually a thing. In my mind, I'm like, it's not just that. There's also the overstimulation with social media and TikTok and Instagram and that constant need to scroll.
Yeah.
And overstimulation is 100% affecting your ability to remember things. When you're overloaded with information, your brain can only handle so much.
Yeah.
So when you reach that threshold, you can't remember anything after that. I mean, you can, but it's like how we're having these conversations. We remember little bits of this or that. We can't remember everything. Like I sometimes have a hard time. Ask me what I ate 3 days ago. I could probably figure it out.
What day was 3 days ago?
Thursday. It would be a long ass pause before I could tell you what I ate for any meal throughout that day. So there are things in our everyday life that we do unknowingly that are really affecting our brain health. And like, serious note, I know we talk about funny and silly stuff all the time. Those are things you really need to sit down and think about. Because right now you think, oh, it's this bad right now and I'm, this age. What is it going to be like in 20 years?
Yeah.
What is it going to be like in 30 years?
It's a gradual decline. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And I'm always like, okay, what are things that I can do to like help with it? Like, I do notice if I write something down, even if I don't go back and look at it, I think the act of writing it, like my brain sending my hand signals to write out certain words, helps me remember things.
For sure.
So even if it's like, oh, I need to remember to do that, I'll write it down. I have a better chance of remembering to do it without even looking at it because I did the action of writing
Yeah.
it.
I mean, think about being in school and studying.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yeah,
actually
like
had to
when they
study,
would tell you to write, you would be like, why am I literally just writing the same crap
over and over again.
Like,
but then when the test came, it's like it's a little bit of memory, it's a little bit of muscle memory of remembering, like the hand motions of writing it, and it's a pretty serious thing. It's a common thing that happens. There's plenty of things, and we'll showcase some of those things a little bit later of ways that will help increase your brain function and kind of to work, because your brain is a muscle, to work that muscle, and not just go through the motions.
Yeah, being able to lift weights, like, you have to like build up to it, and you have to continue to keep doing it. Or running a marathon, you have to keep
practice. You have to practice and build up that stamina. And I think even like simple things like autocorrect on the cell phone, like there's words sometimes I get to a word and I'm like, I know this word. Why is it red underline? Like, why can't I spell this word? And we've gotten so accustomed to things finishing our sentences. Google and Apple just filling in the blanks for you because it's like predictive text. It knows what you're going to say. But that develops like such a huge problem in the long run. Take all the technology away. What are we going to do? We can't remember our calendar. We can't remember anything because what's in our calendar on our phone.
Barely even that. I had a friend message me the other day and she's like, are you good for this week? And I'm like,
what?
Oh, crap.
I did this yesterday. I messaged a friend and I was like, hey, are you going to this event on Monday? And she's like, oh, no, I got invited to the one on the 26th. And then I'm thinking about it and I was like, oh, let me check. And I was like, let me double check because maybe I'm just an idiot and I looked at the date wrong. And then she was like, yeah, wouldn't it have been funny if you showed up on that date? And I'm like, yeah, but no.
Yeah, real funny. Ha, ha, ha. What?
But yeah, also, and I remember writing it down. And in my mind, I remember putting it down for Monday. And Monday was not the day on the invite. Like, it wasn't even close to the numeric date. I don't know what I was thinking, but some pathway in my mind connected it to that, and it was completely wrong. And if I wouldn't have texted her and said, hey, am I going to see you there, my ass would have showed up on the wrong date. Like, I'm
You'd be
here.
like, hey, and you're like, where's everyone else?
Yep.
Everyone else has it wrong.
And they're like, ma'am, you can't read
it's on
an invite. Yeah, so we're all doomed. Eat your mushrooms and
take breaks from your phone.
Yeah, seriously, I feel like technology is, although a tool to advance the speed and efficiency of things, is also making people pretty dumb.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get anywhere anymore.
Me neither.
Without maps?
Nope.
Like, I have to travel somewhere at least 10 times for me to remember how to get there without using maps.
No, I can't. I mean, I'm more than 10 probably for me. But then we also live in Southern California where there's 700 different routes to get anywhere.
And you don't know which one has the best traffic. So that's another reason to use maps, is because you want to make sure you're getting there.
Thomas Guide. If you gave me a Thomas Guide, I would just probably just sit down and like start getting sweaty because I wouldn't know it. I'm like, what is this? The big ass book?
What are these lines?
What does this mean?
Is the brown parts land or is that water?
When the Google lady says, turn southeast on Northwestern Southern Avenue, and I'm like,
let me get my compass out.
Right or left?
Compass out.
And then my phone has no service, and I'm like, the compass isn't working and don't know what to do. So we're all doomed. We're not, and you know what? We're probably not going to remember it, so it'll be just fine. You had a story, because I blabbed for a really long time.
Good. We were both blabbing. Missed time, and also just like not remembering events and stuff. Because
wait, have you had missed time?
I feel like I do. There'll be times where this is going to sound
abducted
so
by aliens? You've been abducted by aliens.
Driving.
Oh, that's autopilot. Well,
I think it goes into autopilot.
Or you've been abducted
I feel like
by
my
aliens.
brain turns off, and then I'm like, wait, how did I get here?
You know what happened to Mulder and Scully when they were driving on the road? And then they're like, what just happened? It's 3 hours later. They were fucking abducted by aliens.
Me too.
So you say autopilot, I say aliens.
Either one.
But still shitty, though, when you're like, what just happened? How did I get home?
There's so many, even like anywhere. Like, I'll be doing something, and then I'm like, Like, huh? Yeah, your brain.
Where did 4 hours go? But I mean, if you're doing something and time escapes you, I feel like that's different.
Yeah.
But like when you're driving home and it's 45 minutes later and you don't remember anything but you're home.
And I'm somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I get from A to here?
Safely.
Safely. Oh,
Okay,
great.
so
Someone's
we
gonna
need.
put me in jail.
Yeah, we're revealing way too many secrets about
It
ourselves.
hasn't happened in a long time. I just want to put that.
It
out
was
there.
just once, a really long time ago. We're all just gonna. What?
last week.
A long time ago on Saturday of last week.
Last week, yeah. I don't even remember it, so it's fine.
We all need dash cams on our cars.
I almost got one because Instagram was showing me so many people's ones, and they're like really bad things of like people who just like run in front of your car and throw themselves on the ground. They didn't touch your car, and they're like, "You hit me," and I'm like, "Oh my God, what if somebody does that to me?" But I don't know. I don't think it.
I think dash cams are a smart thing. They have them in a lot of other countries, and you not only are like protecting your perspective of what's happening, but you're also have the chance of catching something on camera. Like
I could have a whole Instagram account
of cryptids. You might get a cryptid on your camera late at night.
Who
you
knows
might
what I get
a UFO or a UAP now, what they're calling them. There's so many things that a dash cam could do. So I feel like eat your brain mushrooms, get a dash cam, wear a helmet.
All the above. I will order them. So
add it to your to-do list.
Yeah,
Alexa, can you hear me?
Agatha Christie, one of her greatest mysteries is something that didn't actually, get written in a book. It actually happened to her. So for those who don't know, she is a author of detective novels and short story collections. She was alive from 1890, which is like, geez, people were alive back then. 1890 to 1976. So this happened 1926. She was still kind of up and coming writer. She wasn't like at the height that she later became.
I feel like she got big in, like, I remember in the 90s, people, like, there was like a resurgence of Agatha Christie books and stuff, and people were reading them a lot.
I think it was like towards the end of her life and then after. And I still even think today, like, people, like, it's, it's just something that everybody knows. I haven't read any of her books, but it's like, she's so ingrained in pop culture and that kind of stuff that everyone, like, it's just one of those things that, even if you don't know,
Yeah.
So in 1926, in December, she got in an argument with her husband. He was having an affair. I feel like at that, obviously it's not good. Please don't, like, if you aren't happy in a relationship, just end it. Don't have affairs. Don't kill people. Like, it's not that hard. It's better for everyone. But so I feel like even back then it was more scandalous. Like, on today it's like, most reality TV shows, it's like that's one of the main plot lines and stuff.
Most
so I
marriages
feel like,
end in divorce now. It's like, it's a common
But
thing.
I feel like back then it was more of like a scandal and a shock to people. So they got into an argument. He ended up leaving and was like, I'm going to go spend the weekends with my friends and my mistress. You deal with your own stuff. I'm not interested.
What a jerk.
Total jerk. So basically she went missing. She was also dealing with some trauma because her mother died of bronchitis. So she dropped her daughter off with the maid and just went missing. The next day they found her car, crashed into some bushes, and there was a suitcase with clothing in the back seat. People, because of the husband, her mother situation, people were worried that she may have drowned herself in a local lake called the Silent Pool. So they dredged a lake. They were searching for her. Like, a lot of man hours went into this, both police and volunteer trying to search for her. It became like a huge news story, like internationally too. Like over here, there's like a news story in the New York Post. A fellow mystery writer got the help of a clairvoyant to try to find her with one of her gloves as a guide, which I just think is so crazy that a fellow, like a mystery writer, is like, I'm going to go to a medium.
I'm going to find her. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't work.
How did they know she was missing? Did she just not go to the nanny to pick up the kid?
Like, you go back home and like, oh, she's not here. The car's gone. Oh, it's crashed in the bushes.
It was pretty quick.
Like added. Yeah.
It was a pretty quick thing. Like, she wasn't missing for a very long time before they figured it out.
Yeah, before they figured it out. The next day, they're like, what the heck's going on? Then December 14th. So she went missing on December 3rd. December 14th, a waiter at a restaurant called the police, and they're like, I'm pretty sure she's here, but she's under a different name. And they thought that, so he was like, she's under the name as, she's like, there's an outgoing guest here that looks just like her, but she's claiming to be from South Africa, and she was under the surname Miss Tressa, which is actually her husband's lover's surname. So it's like, what the heck? So her husband goes to this restaurant with like police, and he's sitting in the, like, you know, not restaurant, hotel. Sorry, hotel.
Okay.
I kept saying restaurant.
You said waiter, but like concierge or like the...
the hotel had a restaurant.
Got it.
Oh my gosh, see my brain.
Close enough.
So yeah, so she's staying at this hotel, and so he goes to the restaurant and then she comes walking in, goes and sits down, is reading the newspaper like for breakfast, like and the newspaper even has like her missing story,
like with her
on
picture
the front.
on it.
So I can't even imagine like the like just seeing her sitting at the table holding up the thing, and there's her picture like with missing probably, and she's like, my name is Tressa. This is fine. I'm from South Africa. This is great.
Does she have an accent? I'm interested in the details. Like when she went to the waiter, was she like speaking like she was from South Africa?
They didn't have, all the stuff I read didn't have those details, unfortunately.
Damn it.
But then
Not that it matters.
Yeah. But her husband went up to her, and she looked at him like, who are you? She didn't recognize him or anything. So she ended up the next day, she went to her sister's and they took care of her. But the two separate doctors diagnosed her with a genuine memory loss.
Amnesia.
But a lot of people, either amnesia or concussion since her car was crashed. Yeah. So they think maybe it was possibly that. Like some type of nervous breakdown from all of that. Got into a car, crashed, possible concussion,
my list.
Amnesia,
head trauma,
let's
traumatic
go through
events.
But since she's an author, you know, I mean, I feel like if something like this happened to like any type of like any minor celebrity, people would be like, it's a PR stunt.
That's what I was gonna say.
So but that's what people thought.
It could have, you know, like, did she have a new book coming out? Which she's like, I'm gonna make the news. I'm gonna be all over the news so people buy my like. You never really know.
Yeah, it's one of the. Continues to be a mystery. Nobody knows. It could either be genuine, a nervous breakdown, concussion, amnesia, or it could be she wanted to get back at her husband and wanted to humiliate him.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna let me put it, because like I said, like, you know, back, I feel like, you know, especially back then, like people would really frown upon knowing that someone would do.
And also, like, being a mother and just leaving your kid. I mean, like, oh, I forgot I had a child.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or people thought it was a PR stunt to get her name in the newspapers, which would then result, you know, there's no... I don't know
if you just touched your hair. Sorry.
Possibly.
Sorry.
There's no...
if you're saying it's a PR stunt, like any publicity is good publicity, like whether it's good or bad, or whether it's a scandal or not, it's like people still recognize your name. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, oh, girl's on to, she's just trying to get some eyes for her new book.
She just wants her name in the papers. I don't know.
I mean, there's plenty of things it could be, which actually perfectly leads into the next thing I was going to talk about is crime-related amnesia, because it's a very common thing for criminals, whether it's like serial killers, serial criminals committing like multiple crimes in the same kind of genre or field, or just someone that just committed some random crime, is to say, sorry, Your Honor, I can't remember. Or sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Police Officer, I can't remember. And there's actually something to be said about that. There's tons of studies. And so there's a couple different explanations for crime-related amnesia. The first one is basically saying that during the crime, some offenders suffer from a temporary or permanent brain dysfunction that prevents and undermines the storage of criminal events in their memory. How convenient.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a traumatic experience, whether, I mean, they're typically choosing to commit this crime. So they're very aware of what they're doing, but depending on what the crime is, it can cause some trauma and then they can't remember.
it's like, even though you are choosing to do this act, like, is it that your brain is like, this thing is so awful that I can't store this?
I don't want to keep it.
Control, delete. I can't handle this.
Which, again, seems very convenient, but also I could understand, like, understanding just a little bit about how the brain functions. You could see that could be a possibility. If it's a thing, if it's like a serial killer and magically they're able to function all day long, but it's only when this heinous crime is committed that magically they can't remember, I find that a little hard to believe. The second explanation holds that many offenders are in extreme emotional condition. For example, rage when they are committing a violent crime. Therefore, crime-related details would be stored in memory in the context of strong emotions. Later, when the offender has returned to a more calm state of mind, he or she would be unable to remember the crime because of the mismatch in emotional state between encoding crime-related events and the retrieval of such events. So essentially, your heightened mood or emotion would be so disassociated from what your calm emotion is, it would be hard to correlate that you're the same person doing those things.
Yeah.
So I guess like a psychologist could break that down and see if a person was really truthful or not, or if that's a common behavior, if they're like bipolar. And then the third is basically saying that crime-related amnesia is, they call it feigned memory loss. And feigned means basically like fake. It's not real. They're just saying that to save themselves.
Yeah.
So depending on the crime, depending on the person, depending on the story and how it's told, they can basically categorize like what type of amnesia that they're having, if it is in fact that, or if it's just a feigned amnesia and they're making it up.
Yeah.
And then my question was, well, how do you tell?
Yeah.
Like, if they're a good liar, people could lie their way. How many criminals have gotten away with so much because they just lied their way through it? And people were like, oh, well, they seemed really genuine, or they seemed like the Larry Hall thing. And I know I said I would talk about it more, but we might run out of time. But leading to my next thing, there's a set of tests that they can do. So psychologists have basically developed a set of tests that they basically put these criminals through to determine whether they're lying or whether they in fact do have amnesia. And so there's a test, and it's called the test of memory malingering. And so the test is used for investigative purposes. The idea behind this test is that genuine brain disordered patients perform quite well on it. So if you're not lying and you're taking this test, you're going to do like a decent job. And if you are lying, you usually do worse, but you purposefully do worse, and they can tell. Like, if you really have a brain dysfunction, you're probably going to pass this test.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're probably going to fail. And so they can tell. And there's multiple tests, but the fact, I was doing some research and I put in like how many killers or murderers have claimed memory loss. And it was like, here's a list of photos, and it was like a lot, like dozens and dozens of them. So it's a very common practice of being like, oh, sorry, I don't remember, and how convenient. But typically in this day and age, I feel like they're able to figure it out. And now there's cameras everywhere.
There's cameras. There's been a few that, YouTube has so many interrogation videos, but there's some where like the person's like, I don't remember, and they're like, oh yeah, well, we have the data from your phone saying at this time you were doing this, and stuff that kind of go against what you're saying.
Well, and there's also there's two people that were like, well, I don't remember, and they're like, well, we have you on camera, and they'll show them, and they're like, that wasn't me, I don't remember that. And sometimes they're telling the truth, and sometimes they're lying. And again, they have to do these investigative processes. But if you're on camera committing the crime, whether you say you remember or not, you still committed the crime.
That's true.
So there was also a bunch of articles like, well, can they really be convicted of the crime or be guilty of the crime if they don't remember? And the answer is yes, because if you did it and there's evidence that you did it, whether or not you remember, you still did it. The sentencing from there on out is whether you're basically going to be put in like a mental facility because you're not of sound mind, or if you're just going to go to prison. So you don't get away with any murderers or serial killers out there. Saying you don't remember is not going to mean you get away with it. FYI.
Yeah, just so you know.
Just so you know. And with that note, I said I was going to talk about Larry Hall. We're running out of time.
There's so much to talk about. Like, we might have to do a part 2, because this also like opens up. Because one of the things that I always wonder about is like even just witness testimony. And I have like looked into it a little bit, like how witness testimony isn't like people who like see something happen.
We could see the same crime and give two different stories.
We could give two different stories. Like they're like
it's interpretation.
They have like the test where it's like a red car coming down the street, and they have like the time showing, and then they'll show you the video, and then after they're like, okay, what color was the car? And everyone everyone will say a different answer.
Which is crazy because we all saw the same
exact thing.
But it's that recall, like the memory recall of were you focused on it? Were you looking at the color of the car?
Yeah.
Were you looking at the time
at another
stamp?
detail? Were you looking at something
yeah.
else? But then also like there's also a bunch of different, there's so many different factors, because it could also be like maybe the shape of the car was a different car that maybe someone you knew had, but they had a different color. So your brain paints it as that color. There's just so many different things. Yeah, this topic is so vast. I think we might have to do a part 2 because
brains are wild, and protect them at all costs.
Wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet.
Yeah, says the person who does one wheel and like recently posted a video of her eating shit.
Oh, I ate shit. Well, it wasn't really that bad. Every time in my mind, I feel like
it.
I feel like it's crazy, and then Cameron's like, no, I watched. It was like the most slow motion fall I've ever seen in my life. But this last one, like, I actually did hit my head. I didn't hit my head very hard. Well,
eat those mushrooms.
I had a helmet on, and thank God I did, because I didn't fall very hard. I basically like sat down. The video made it look a lot worse than it really was, because I was filming my perspective, so it's just me falling in the camera looking crazy. But I basically fell, and I had a backpack on, because when we one wheel, we have like our little tire gauge and all that stuff, and I have a first aid kit. So I had a backpack on, so when when I fell, imagine like falling and then having something on your back. So my butt hits the ground, my backpack hits the ground, but then there's a bunch of space between the back of my head because the backpack's there. So then I hit my head. It was a rock, but I had a helmet on. I didn't hit it very hard, but it did give me like a little bit of like that whiplash. So wear your helmet, wear your pads, protect yourself. One wheeling is super fun. It can also be very dangerous.
It can.
So protect yourself.
But there's also like this is another thing that we'll have to go into, but there's also like a bunch of studies where like a certain amount of, like a high percentage of serial killers had some type of head trauma in their life leading to it. So like there's so much to like uncover.
I'm not going to be a serial killer. I feel like I'm old enough.
No, but I'm going to watch my back.
At this point, I feel like my serial killer tendencies, I've been concussed enough. I feel like they would have come out by now. We're fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And to distract you from that point, I have purchased some fun memory games, because I thought this would be a really fun thing to watch us struggle through.
Yeah, get ready to watch me get very frustrated and throw stuff.
When did Simon come out? In like the 80s?
Something like
90s?
That. Yeah.
So we have Simon memory game. This is basically like a color memory, like things light up and you have to remember the patterns.
That one I still like, I sort of understood it, but like I don't fully understand it.
I went on Amazon and I'm like, what can I get here in 2 days? Or what can I get here tomorrow? So Simon was available. This one is called Brain Bolts, and it's essentially a memory pattern game as well. It's just a little bit more complicated than Simon.
Yeah.
This one said ages 7 to 107. This one said like ages 3 and up. And then this is called Canoodle. I can't read it with the light. Canoodle Extreme. And this is like a puzzle. It was funny because after we did a Dangerous Toys episode,
you're looking at, it basically has like little shapes, and it has like the little holes that you're supposed to like, you have like a certain set amount. And
I just opened it the wrong way. Anyways, I'm gonna.
But they give you these shapes, and you're supposed to basically fill up the entire space that you have and leaving no dots.
Like it's like a puzzle pattern game. So you can do it the flat way, and then there's like you can make like 3D puzzles. I feel like this is more of like a quietly do in your own time.
Yeah, like
activity. But it's supposed to stimulate, like it's puzzles, so it stimulates the brain.
I'm more of a visual person, so when I was playing with that, I'm like, oh, this is very visually pleasing, and like nice, but
I don't like it.
I didn't really fully know what I was supposed to make.
I opened it up and I was like, maybe we're not going to talk about this one because I don't understand it. And AJ's like, just like, give me a second.
Just give me 5 seconds. I'll figure it out.
But is it magnets?
No, they just go into like the little spaces.
I thought it would be like a double, like the dangerous toys, like it'd be magnets. But I feel like these would be hard to swallow if they were magnets.
Nah, give me a moment. I'll try.
Okay, so we're going to play a little bit of Simon. You're going to go first.
Isn't there a horror movie that has Simon in it?
So
green. Wait, what? It flashed green.
She already lost on one.
It flashed. You saw it.
I did. No, I think that was start.
Oh.
Okay, so that's starting.
Oh,
so hit it to start. And that's your first one. Okay, Close Encounters.
I know.
You're doing really good. Are we taking bets how long she can go? Cameron? He said he's in... Oh. Wow, I'm going to do really bad. You're going to make me look really bad. If I talk to you, is it distracting you?
Shut up.
I'm going to start waving my arms. Oh, I don't think I should even go. Dude. Wow. It starts going. So it does start. I forgot that part. It starts going faster. What the? She's been eating the brain mushrooms. This is it. Oh,
that was way longer than I ever thought I would. Did you see that?
Do I have to go after that?
I think the additional pressure of you guys watching at home gave me strength.
Oh no, I
want to thank y'all.
I'm not going to do
being
good
there for me.
Now,
Tilt
I'm
it.
going to. I got to turn it on. Just.
No. Oh yeah.
I'm like already done. I don't even know how I did that one. Ah! Again? Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Oops. Fudge.
Yeah, that was good though.
Oh, that. I think I went like half the time that you went. That was insane.
I don't know what I was doing. I kind of lost. My brain turned off.
Yeah,
I think I had an out-of-body experience just now doing that.
So you can turn the sound off on this, and I think as you get better, you turn the sound off.
I think the sound really helps.
For sure. It is very, very helpful. I know we're running out of time, but we're going to try this one. This is Brain Bolts, and this essentially is, it's 21 buttons, and the idea is it's not a pattern. It's just basically identifying the next light that turns on. It sounds really simple, but there's only 3 colors, I think, right? There's orange, yellow, or 4. Orange, green. Yellow, red, and green.
Yeah.
So you basically, we're going to start it again and see if... Oh, let's try it. Okay, we'll do it together. So the first one, you got to wait till now it's on. So our first one is red.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Green.
It's hard to see it with the light.
Yeah.
Yellow.
I can't.
This
see
yellow.
from here.
Okay, we got it. This yellow. Yeah. See, I already lost.
And then you take too long, and it's like.
And it times out. So essentially, it's like not necessarily.
Each round, it lights up a new color, a new square, and you have to identify which ones has been added.
Right. And it seems you're like, oh, well, it's obviously just the next one that's been added. But once the colors start getting repetitive, it's really difficult.
You're like, wait, is that green one?
Teamwork. We're doing one more time. It's hard to see it.
There is a team. There's a.
Oh, I think we can play 2 players. Nope. Oh. You go.
See, I can't.
It's hard to see with the ring light is so bright. Green. This is to test our own knowledge. Now we're just. Oh, AJ's good. She's got it. This one. Nope.
I can barely even see.
It's hard, but these are just simple tools. You can get them on Amazon. I think this was like $10. Mm-hmm. This was like a set, and I think this one was like $20. You get the puzzle game and the brain bolts game. And I feel like these are kind of simple things that you can do.
It's something that you can have on your coffee table, and if you're watching something that you don't need to fully pay attention to, you can kind of mess around with it every now and then. And I feel like definitely things like this. I'm currently playing the new Zelda game, and like even that, because that one has like little puzzles and like little things that you need to complete. And even when I'm playing that, I'm like, oh, I feel so much smarter.
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm like once you actually start using your brain,
it's exercising the brain muscle, and it's smarter. Super important. Yeah, and I think. All jokes aside, in today's day and age, we're so consumed by like the next thing we're supposed to do, and we have a tight schedule and we're busy, and by the time you're done doing like your adulting obligations, you're so exhausted. You're like, I just want to veg out and watch TV.
Which is fine. And you definitely, especially for like your mental health and stuff like that, taking those moments to just like veg out and not do anything is totally, you should take those moments too. Absolutely. But you should also like take the moments to try to like get your, dust off your brain every now and then.
The brain juice is flowing. I know for me, it sounds really silly, but I was like, if we don't need these, I'll probably just return them after. And then we started playing, and I'm like, oh no, I should probably keep these. Like, we should take. I'm gonna send you home with Simon. I'll get good at this game, and then we can swap.
Because you can swap next time.
It just seems like a silly thing, but think about being a kid and playing games, and it's supposed to be fun, but in the background, it actually is really working out this muscle.
Like I was telling you, I went to go see Asteroid City, and they were playing a memory game between, I think it was 4 or 5 of them. But so it's my turn. I would say, I forgot who they were saying, but a famous person's name. I think they were mostly doing like scientists and people like that because they're more smart people than me. But I would say a person's name, and then it would be your turn, and you would say the person I said, and then add a person, and then Cameron would say, you basically just, it's just like you're remembering, and you're just going around, and each person adds one, and you have to keep saying all of them in a row. And they got to like the third person, I'm all like, what was the first name they said?
Yeah. And I think you just really have to be in that mindset where like, I'm playing a game, like I'm focusing.
Yeah.
And when you adapt yourself, you'll be surprised on how well you can do. And when you practice a little bit, you'll be surprised on how well you can do.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to be Simon Master soon.
We're going to be professional brainers, hopefully, and don't have to wear crash helmets all the time. But also, you could wear a helmet. It's fine. I won't judge you. So I think that'll do it for this episode. Let's get spooky. Wear your helmets. Practice your brain things.
Practice your brain things. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel.
Absolutely.
Follow us on
all the socials.
Instagram, social stuff. I'm on TikTok, but I don't post. You post.
Every once in a while. I try.
She's a TikTok star. Then there's me, and you go to my page, and it's empty.
TikTok, Instagram. We have all the links on our page. Thanks for tuning in, Fiends, and don't forget to
stay spooky.